Okay, humans, I'm making this powder for steaming or fuming the umbilicus, and my recipe I decided on um, Rushang and Moyao, frankincense and myrrh. So I already had it in powdered form because it's difficult to grind without making the grinder all sticky and really difficult to clean. So I have it in powdered form already. By powder, I mean ground up herb. I don't mean granules. And then another ingredient that I had was fudza, which I already have powdered because I use it in matzo to make little matzo cakes to do the matzo on top of the fudza cakes. So these three powders are already measured out. The Rushang is this one, and the Moyao is this middle one that's darker, and the Fudza is this other one, measured out in the proportions that I listed in the slideshow. Besides that, Mushang was in a lot of the recipes, and so this one piece is the weight that I'm looking for. Dingshang or cloves, you can buy that just, in some place where you buy spices, or you can buy it in the Chinese herb store. But yeah, they smell really good. This is going to smell good with especially the Rushang. The frankincense smells delightful. Moyao, not so much. The third ingredient is some coarse salt. And so, these five, one, two, three, four, five, these six were in the recipe from Yishui Rumen, the Entering the Gate of Medicine, plus a whole lot of other herbs, but I picked the ones I had on hand. I picked the ones I like. I picked the ones that I thought might be good for me. This is only a small amount for two reasons. One is that, I'm experimenting, and if I don't like it, I don't want to use up a lot of herbs for something that doesn't turn out well. So your first attempt always start small. And the other reason is because how much does it take to fill the umbilicus? Even if I want to do it 2, 3, 5 times, this will be plenty. Since I'm not using it to treat patients at this point. The salt, this is, coarse salt that's used in fermenting, and I buy it. It's actually from Korea, but I buy it in a Chinese store, like grocery store, and it's very inexpensive compared to if I buy it, where I live on the west side, where it's, kind of an affluent community. Not that I'm affluent, but if I buy it here, it's very expensive. And if I buy it in the Chinese grocery store in the Chinese area of town, it's much less expensive. So that's, one thing. While I'm here, I'm going to show you one other thing. I really want to make a flour dough ring, and I think most people aren't going to do that. So we saw in the slideshow that you make this dough ring to put around the umbilicus. So I'm thinking, what could we substitute? And I always like the hardware store and so forth. There's something that are called grommets, whatever, but they're these rubber rings, and you can get them in different sizes. And this size is, a little bigger than my belly button. So I'm going to use this as the outside, ring rather than using, a dough ring. And of course, this could be washed and reused multiple times, and they come in different sizes. So if somebody has a large umbilicus, you can buy a larger size. So, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is grind these to make the fine powder. Okay, first I started trying to grind it with my professional herb grinder, but the amount is too small. It needs really more herbs in it. That didn't work too well, but it made the initial chopping it up. Then I used just like a small kitchen spice grinder and, sifted it. Some stuff won't go through the sieve, but I think the texture of this is fine enough that it's going to be okay for the purposes that we're having. So I'm just going to put all of this in. The three things that were already powdered, I put through the sieve, and there are a few clumps of the Rushang and Moya, the resins. So I broke them up with a mortar and pestle. So mortar and pestle. And so now we basically have it. Yeah, so it needs kind of mixing up. I forgot to get a stirrer over here, but I can stir it once it's in. I've got a little bottle, I've got a funnel to help me get it in. And so you want to seal this airtight because you don't want the aromatic herbs dispersing in the air. And so the next thing is to do it on myself. So let's get this. Okay. So this is definitely, even though I use very small amounts, this is enough to fill quite a few umbilicuses. Okay, so I'm going to put a label on it, and then I'm ready for the next step. Yeah, I've got everything ready for the procedure for fuming or steaming the umbilicus. I've got the powder, which I made. One of the things I found is that it kind of clumps together probably because the dingshang, the cloves, have a lot of oil in it. So I kind of stirred it up to break it apart. Yeah. And I've got Jiangnao or camphor, which, I bought actually not from a Chinese herb store, but from an incense store. And this part is optional. You can put a little bit of camphor in the umbilicus first. It helps it penetrate. Most of the recipes called for sheshang or musk, but I'm not going to use animal products. And plus, many of them said that it's better not to use that for women. But they did say you could use Bingpian Borneo or Jiangnao camphor, or you don't even need it, but it does help the qi penetrate into the body. I've got the little grommet ring to use rather than a dough, ring made out of dough. I've got a few slices of ginger because if they get dried out, then you replace them. And I made sure that they fit over the ring so that, it kind of covers all of the powder inside. Besides that, what it gave us the option of moistening the powder after you put it in. And, it said you could use ginger juice. It said you could use huangzhou, which is yellow rice wine. Or what else did it say? Baizhou, which is distilled. You could use vodka instead. But I had some yellow rice wine and I decided I'll try that. But that's also optional. I also have some moxa floss I've made a few moxa cones here to be ready. I'm going to light the cones with incense and a lighter, and I've got an ashtray. And so that's what I need, so I'm going to give it a try. A few tools. I've got tweezers to put the little piece of jiangnao in my umbilicus. There, you can see it. And I've got, what do you call it? So I can scoop up some of the rice wine and drip it into the powder. Okay, that's it. So I tried making a video of doing this on myself because I don't have anyone else here to do it on, and it really work out making a video of me doing it on myself. So I'm going to do it. We're going to pretend that this little thing is an umbilicus, and I'm going to do this. So first, we take a little piece of jiangnao and put it in the center, drop it in. that helps to penetrate. Then we take some of the powder and I'm going to put the ring on top. Remember, there's like this little ring on top. Now I'm going to put the powder in. A little bit more powder. I tell you, it felt pretty good doing it on myself. It was very nice. So the powder needs to be packed in. It's pretty firmly packed. It's a little bit messy. I'm a messy person. Oh well. And then if you're going to use a liquid, which you don't need to, this is the Huangzhou, the yellow rice wine. So I'm going to put a few drops of this in. I don't need to make it soaking, but a few drops. Then you can put the slice of ginger on top. Press it down. Finally, we can add a moxicone on top and light the incense. Light the moxicone. I could use bigger cones. It said about the size of soybean. I think that's about the size of a soybean. And they generally ask for multiple cones. So, yeah,